G'day again, and it's my final interview from someone from Horatio Street. And this is Greg Rees, who's been the on-site supervisor for PPS for pretty much the duration of the job, hey?
Yep.
Yeah. I guess the thing with Greg is I know Greg, I've gotten to know him and he's a good friend, and I've really appreciated working with him, and quite interesting I think the thing I noticed about this site was, and I might be a bit biased because it's my project, but I used to come on the site and it was a very friendly place to be. And I started, after seeing that week in, week out, I started to realise that the way that the management of the job was occurring, then people were happy. And, you know, that's from plumbers, electricians, carpenters, and everyone else on the project. And I just wanted to talk to Greg a little bit about that.
Yep.
So, mate, credit to you for what you've done in terms of making this a pretty happy work site.
Cheers.
And I don't think there's been any injury concerns or any other things like that?
No injury concerns. I think happy job's a good job.
Yep.
You know, if everyone gets on well, there's no tension. You know, all the subbies and trades can work well together, and
yep.
and you know, get on and do their job.
Because in any job, there's so many parts of domestic construction where people have to cooperate with each other.
Yeah.
You know,
sure.
you've got you might have carpenters with plasterers.
Yeah.
With tilers, with cabinet makers,
yeah.
and all these trades, electrical contractors have to all work in together, and it does require a bit of give and take, doesn't it?
Yeah, for sure.
And certainly I've been on plenty of jobs before where that doesn't happen, and you end up with people getting around, and you just, you know, you can cut the air with a knife because people aren't happy.
It's just negative as soon as the job site opens in the morning, and you know, it's different here. I think everyone's happy, everyone's gets on well, and I mean, you know, you get your bad days and all that sort of thing, but you know, if you don't throw your head around, you can get through all the tough items that need to be done, and you know, it gets on and gets jobs done.
Because there's enough challenges on this site anyway, wasn't there, in terms of, particularly the access was the main one with the street, very narrow street out the front.
Yeah.
So you can imagine there, you've got guys who they pull up with a big trailer. Full of maybe a bit of materials, but they're tools, and they've either got to get as close as they can, or else they're lugging tools around from the corner or wherever they can park for the whole day, which is a pain.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's a narrow street. I don't know how we got away with, you know, such good neighbours. It's been magic. We've been lucky with power lines being on the opposite side, with cranes, you know, coming in and deliveries, and you know. It goes to show that, you know, with even with the crane drivers, you know, they come out and they do more than what they need to just to give you a hand, and I thought it was awesome. That was from the start of the job, and it's been good all the way through. So,
and I think that I mean, I would directly attribute that to two areas. The first is what their experience is on site, and the first one is prior to that is how they're engaged as a subby.
Oh, for sure.
You know, so the management of PPS, I think, from Salem right down to Anthony, in particular, how they choose trades, the relationship they've got, the fact that they're not being screwed for money. Often you hear, it's not uncommon at all for subbies not to be happy right at the start because they've been screwed to death by the builder, and then what are they going to do? Well, of course, they're going to look for any opportunity to get extra money because they feel they've been beaten around at the start. And I think that Anthony's a very fair man, and I'm sure that most of the subbies have been engaged on a very fair basis.
Yeah, no, you're right.
The other site constraint here and the difficulty here was how narrow it was between the buildings. So, you know, getting materials up the centre of this building. I mean, I think these buildings are probably about 30 metres long, all up, or a little bit more even, and yet there was a forest of scaffold between the buildings. So getting gyprock up to start finishing the back units, for example, big sheets of gyp. You know, it was difficult all the way.
Yeah, and you know, at the start of the job, we always said to all subbies that because it's such a difficult access site, that you know we'd help out with the labourers that we had, or get whatever labourers we needed in to give them a hand and get gear out the back and the rubbish back out the front, and you know, just to make everyone kind of happy.
So that's on a. I mean, I think that the building business and the development industry, it's about people, really, at the end of the day, trying to get the best out of people in the skill sets that they've got. And I think you've done a really good job here, and PPS have done that really well. I guess the other thing I'd like to just briefly chat about is, in terms of the project itself, do you find that there's, I mean, this is, as I mentioned earlier with Mick the carpenter, that this is lightweight construction.
Yep.
We've pretty much eliminated, apart from bricklayers at the very end of the job by doing brick fences at the front,
Yep.
we've pretty much eliminated that trade, and
Yep.
it's pretty lean and mean. Do you think that, you know, in terms of modern construction for this
Yep.
townhouse product, is we've got a pretty good formula with what's
I
happened
think so.
here?
I think so. Yeah. I mean, we came up with the, you know, the challenge of the 1800 overhang there, and you know, having to support that fire wall up there, and that was a mission, and we overcame that with, you know, back and forth between engineers and fire wardens and consultants, and yeah. So I think you know, there's always improvements that you can make in jobs, and you know, that's part of what you do, and think about the next job, and if you come across it.
Yeah. So in terms of, what do you reckon in terms of, you can run contracts as design and construct, where basically at a point in time, normally when you've got an approval, you can get builders to price it using their specification, and then they go ahead and do all the design. Or you can fully design it, and we probably didn't, there was elements that we chose not to design and leave for PPS and us to work out as we went on. That probably did cause some delays to, you know, those elements where, you know, decisions, and someone still has to make those decisions, and perhaps I could have done a bit better in that regard. But do you find that a project designed almost like probably about 95% works well, or do you like working on design and construct projects?
I would prefer more detail for the whole job up front. You know, it's never going to happen. There's always going to be a grey area there, but I reckon the more detail you get from an architect straight up, everyone knows where they're going with things, and you know, for yourself, for us, for everybody really,
pricing,
and subbies and all that sort of thing. So that's what I kind of think. But you know, it's never, you know, a perfect world. You know, things don't happen that way. So, but yeah, if you can get designs up in front of you that you can go by from the start of the job, you know,
I think it's that last 20% trying to get the documentation when you're going for approvals. Just getting that done is, you know, it's a lot of effort, and then you leave a little bit that doesn't need to be done for that, and you know, human nature tends to push these things back as long as we can, and it can come around and bite you in the bum at the end. But I agree with you that to have something fully designed, so it's just a matter of execution, is good. It is also good to get the buy-in of the builder, because you might, for example, have your whole range of sanitary ware and bathrooms, etc., of what you use, what you prefer with white goods, because you've got deals with suppliers and those sorts of things. So a lot of that does come into it, but it does mean that you've got to anticipate a few bumps in the road along the way.
Sure, absolutely. And that's where conversations with yourself and the architect and the CA come into it, where you can come up with alternate designs or whatever, you know, for instance, like the laundry areas in units 1 and 11, that type of thing. So it's just a quick, short discussion and a bit of email here and there, and away you go. So,
so all in all, look, it's been a terrific, it's been a great project for me. It's been a great project to work with you guys on, and particularly you. It's been great, really good. I mean, Rick was here at the start of the job. I talked to Rick, you know, early in the piece. He's a guy with like 35 years experience probably, just a wealth of knowledge, and you know, nothing he hasn't seen. But it's just been terrific since you've been on the job, and I think we've produced a product here that's really good quality, looks great, works well, and it's going to, at the end of the day, whoever moves in here is going to have an enjoyable living space, and that's what it's all about.
Yeah, for sure. There's always comments that, you know, such a nice building and design, and you know, as far as the colours and how everything's laid out, and you know, everyone's enjoyed it. That's from walkers by and even the blokes who are working here. So
I mean, I have to tell you that when we started out, we were building a 3-level building in an area where essentially you've got old Queenslanders. So you'll have, you know, like about 2 metres, maybe 2.4 underneath, and then, you know, it's 2.7 ceiling and then a pitched roof on top. So these buildings are a fair bit higher. And I was concerned that we don't put something that looks ugly for a start. We could get something approved, but and take an easy line from a budget point of view.
Yep.
But I was really concerned that we make something that looks, looks appropriate,
smart,
fits into the area, and the use of the weatherboard I think really does.
Yeah, for sure.
There's plenty of weatherboard used on the existing buildings around here, so
Yeah.
and it doesn't look out of place. I mean, it's obviously new, it's obviously big, but it doesn't look too big.
No.
It doesn't look too.
Yeah.
And choice of colours and all those sorts of things
yeah,
come into it.
yeah,
The big,
For sure. I like them.
Yeah.
It's good.
So anyway, thanks very much, mate. I appreciate it.
No
I've made a
problem.
friend in this process.
Yeah,
I've made a whole
me
friend with
too.
all the PPS
It's all
guys. So that's what happens in building. You do the right thing by people. People get along. We've all got the same sort of values and what we're striving for, and it makes for a great, happy life, happy work life.
Yeah.
So see you later. Thanks.
Awesome.